Yo, what is going on? All right, so I got some news. Guys. Welcome to Papi's Place with G Play 7. So, decided to rebrand it. I told you on the last episode that I was trying to find like a little bit more of a rhythm and a little bit more of how I am on stream at the same time. And I decided that the Papi recap with G Play 7 was good, but it didn't leave any room for guests. And it made it seem like it was just my stuff. So we're gonna call it the Papi's Place, just because it leaves room for guests. Like for example, we're gonna do Smallville at some point, and with Smallville, one of my friends, my cousin actually, and one of the guys that is on stream with me, his name is Inferno. He's gonna do the Smallville with one with me. So we're gonna watch a couple episodes. We're gonna discuss the episodes, what we loved about it, and then we're also gonna show the scenes that we're talking about. We're gonna pick a few scenes that were pretty cool from those episodes, a few episodes that we watched, and we're gonna watch them and like break them down and talk about it. So he's gonna pick a few scenes. I'm gonna pick a few scenes, and then we'll discuss those things, and then just break the episodes down as well. So yeah, so it's a little early for a rebranding, but I decided that was the best direction to go. So now we're gonna call this Papi's Place with G Play 7 or with G. So yeah, so we're gonna continue, season 2 of Stranger Things. We left off after episode 4, which was when Hopper fell into the tunnels. He got a clue from Will's drawings, figure out what it was, and he fell in the tunnel. Nancy and Jonathan left town with the recording. Will is at home with Mike and Joyce, trying to express everything and trying to figure out what's going on. And Dustin is dealing with D'Artagnan evolving and turning into something else and trying to figure out he's turning into like some version of a demogorgon. So in this episode we're going to cover chapter 5, which is Dig Dug, the spy, the lost sister, the mind flayer, and the gate. So this season has nine chapters instead of 8, the standard 8. But all right, so with Dig Dug, like I said, we left off with Hopper in the tunnels. He fell. He kind of passes out, and then he wakes up. Those same tunnels that were causing the disruption at the labs were like, alerts were happening and everything. So, but now they spread all around the buyer's house in the form of Will's drawings. And so Mike and Will are talking and begin to think about how to strategically use what they know about the creature. Like they know that the creature is using Will to spy. The creature sees what Will sees. So maybe they can use that connection against it. So they start theorizing those things. Hopper wakes up and starts exploring the tunnel. He's alone, and then he's realizing that the spores are making him sick. And, he cuts a sleeve, uses it as a bandana and like a mouth guard or mask. And, he starts realizing that the tunnel's like sealed, that he can't get out. At the same time, he's being followed by the vines. Like there's like vines following him. And then on the road, Jonathan and Nancy, they're on their way to meet somebody. So they head to a motel, stop the night, they head to the motel, and then they start talking about how basically they've been distant since everything happened. And like Jonathan had makes a fair point. So they start talking about, she's like, I waited for you, but you just never acted. He's like, bro, you waited for a month. Like, my brother went to another dimension. My brother was stuck in another dimension for a couple of days or a week or something, and I had to deal with the consequences that, psychologically how it affected him and my family and the town, because everybody fucking thought he was dead, and we had to fucking go rescue him. We fought a monster from another dimension, survived that, and for you, a month was enough to think that was enough for me. So you going back to Steve, and like they have a little bit of a tension there. But then they reach the destination where they're going, which is to meet none other than Murray. They tell him about everything that happened. They show him they show him the audio tape of Dr. Owens, and he's like, you know what? I'm thirsty. He's like, this isn't gonna work. And they're like, why? Like, he basically he's cool. He's cool. He's like, when they get there first, he's like, look into the camera, and he's like, look. They always look into the speaker, and he's like, the camera to your right above. So he looks up, finds the camera, and he's like, who comes out? He's like, who the fuck are you guys? He's like, yo, I'm Nancy Wheeler. This is Jonathan Byers. We have something to show you. And so like he lets him in, and they show him the audio tape, and then he's like, they get frustrated because he starts like, I'm thirsty, I'm gonna drink some vodka. So he starts drinking vodka. He's like, oh, that's really strong, let me put a little bit more soda water. And then he keeps doing it until he goes like, ah, perfect. And then Nancy I think it's Nancy that comes with the realization what he's trying to say. He's like, we watered down, because he starts saying that people are not going to believe that. People are like, it's too much. Saying that, there's another dimension, there's monsters, that Hawkins Laboratory is doing experiments on humans and all that. It's too much. And they're all going to believe that it's a conspiracy and it's just false and nobody's going to take action. But if you water down the truth to make it something more believable, something that more people can relate to, then after that, it makes it easier for people to digest. So they decide to make it into, spin the truth a little bit and make it into a leak. That the Hawkins Laboratory was experimenting on something and had a leak that went into the water, and it started, causing problems in people's health and stuff like that. And they decided to cover up those leaks and those things that happened. And Barb was one of the consequences. Barb was one of the victims. So they do that, and that's where they decide to go with. Now, Will starts experiencing visions of Hopper in danger, because Hopper wakes up again in the underground tunnel, and Will is seeing everything that starts happening. And like the vines are chasing him. They start grabbing him, pulling him. It's like he's trapped underground. He's about to die. So, when that happens, at the same time, you got Lucas. Lucas is at home trying to figure out how to navigate his feelings for Max. So he's like asking his parents for advice. And then Dustin is setting traps for D'Artagnan to lead him into the storm cellar. So he basically like leads a trail of three musketeers, and then he hides, and like D'Artagnan is like eating the trail, and then he gets like a whiff or something of like Dustin, and he starts going, and Dustin's like, shit, if I don't do something, he's gonna escape, he's gonna run out. So he just basically rushes him, and he just hits him with a hockey stick, I think it is, and throws him into the storm cellar, and he locks him in. He's like, I'm sorry. So it's pretty cool, because like D'Artagnan's like looking down, and then Dustin is like looking through a little crevice, like a little hole in like the cabin that he's hiding, like the shed, and all of a sudden he just like, oh shit. He's like, I have to do something. So At the same time, Elle ran away. So we had Elle run away. Look because she found the files. That's the other cliffhanger that we left on the last episode. Elle found the files of her mom. So she decides to take a bus, or not. She takes a truck. She gets a truck. She gets a ride. I know the first time. I think the first time she gets a truck ride, and then when she comes back, she takes a bus. But yeah, she basically like she goes to Terry Ives' house. Her sister answers the door, but rejects her initially, and Elle says, "I want some answers. I'm here for answers." So she like her aunt basically is like walking away, and all of a sudden the door unlocks and opens by itself, and she's like standing there in the middle of the doorway, bleeding a little bit, and she's like, so she lets her in, and she learns from her aunt what happened with Terry, how basically like she kept blaming Dr. Brenner that she didn't have a miscarriage, that her baby was stolen. And so like she never believed it. She never believed what her sister said, but she thinks that obsession to find her lost child and all that led to her being in the mental state that she is. When in reality, Elle goes into the void to communicate with her mom, and then she starts seeing the memories. First, she runs into her again, and then like she's just repeating everything, and she witnesses everything. Like she witnesses like Terry being pregnant and going like her like giving labor to Elle or Jane, because technically that's her legal name. Elle's legal name is Jane, and giving birth to her, then being taken away and saying that she died. So then it goes to Terry not giving up, and Terry decides to break into whatever locations, because I don't think it's Hawkins' lab. It may be Hawkins' lab. It may still be at Hawkins, but I think it's at another location at that point. And then it just goes into, they end up in Hawkins at some point, but I think at that point they weren't. I could be wrong. I just know that the reason how Hopper found it originally was by looking up Dr. Brenner. And then there was a bunch of articles about Brenner. So she failed to rescue. She gets close to her. She finds her in this room as a toddler with this other little Indian girl. And so like then security captures her, and what they do is they basically lobotomize her, but like not the but the electroshock therapy one. So basically like they just fry her brain until the point where she ends up the way that she does. But now she starts understanding the little words that Terry just kept repeating cycle, because it was the last events leading up to how she ended up the way she did. So like, the 4 to the right, three to the left, whatever it was, the rainbow room, those are just like little words that she could remember, or little clues that she could remember from specific memories that led to her trying to rescue Jane. And so when that happens, her aunt decides to call either social services or the police, because she wants to like take care of everything, or maybe even Hawkins' lab. She calls somebody, and Elle hears her, and so she decides to basically just take everything, like go into her, grab her stuff, and then she goes into her aunt's purse, grabs money, and leaves. So, Lucas debates telling Max everything. And at the same time, you have Joyce trying to have Bob help her find Hopper, now that Will found out that, Hopper's in trouble, without fully revealing the truth, because she doesn't want to involve Bob into it, but also because of all the legalities that are involved in what she did with what happened with Hawkins' laboratory and like all the paperwork she had to sign. So she's like, Bob, I need your help, but don't ask any questions. And he's like, oh, okay, what are we looking for? She's like, Bob, I just said no questions. Like, oh, okay. Wait, is this real or is this fake? Bob, no questions, bro. Just help us. So he starts looking at all the vines. He starts looking at everything, and then he starts realizing that it's Hawkins. He's like, that's Lake whatever. This is such and such farm. This is this, and so he starts finding everything, and then they find it. He ends up following or finding a direct entrance to the tunnels. Dustin, after locking D'Artagnan in the storm cellar, he keeps asking for his friends, but nobody answers. He's like, "Yo, we got a code red, please help." Erica, I think Erica hears it, but she turns the radio off. He's like, "Shut up, nerd!" And she turns the radio off. And so Dustin only can think of one person. He can only think of one person to help, and so he goes and seeks help from them in the most unlikely of places. And then Hopper, he becomes fully like captured by the vines, like he's completely wrapped by the vines. As the lab starts analyzing the contaminated soil, they realize that because Hopper went to Dr. Owens at some point and he told him, he's like, yo, something's happening at these farms, and I don't think they keep blaming each other for poisoning their crops. I don't think that's the case. I need you to go investigate this. He's like, just humor me, please. He's like, it's not us, like nothing's happening. He's like, okay, just for the love of God, just fucking humor me and go investigate. So he decides, he's like, all right, cool. So while he's being captured by the vines downstairs, they're investigating the soil, and then they start getting results. So Joyce and Bob eventually find Hopper after going into the tunnels, finding that entrance. And just as the lab arrives to intervene, they arrive and they start burning the vines. They're like, oh shit, like it did spread. It's spreading down. So they start burning the vines, but while that's happening, Will starts feeling the pain, like all the demodog, the like anything that's connected to it just starts, and so it's all connected, and that's how we end the Dig Dug episode. Then we go into chapter 6, the spy. So after he was like screaming because they were all waiting in the car outside. Mike and Will, and then what happened is all the doctors see that, so they take Will to the lab for treatment, while Hopper is being like completely sanitized for exposure. Like they're just like they're hosing him down with like a hard hose and everything. Dr. Owens studies the gate after finding that so they were like, oh, we've been keeping it contained, there's no issue. They find that the gate, like the vines and everything, started going underground, and the gate started expanding down. Since it couldn't expand sideways, it started going down. So it went down into the earth. And so Bob finally learns the truth because they're able to finally tell him everything. Will wakes up disoriented, but he doesn't recognize Bob. He doesn't recognize Hopper. Like everybody's like, hey, kid, how you doing? He's like, who are you? And so Joyce goes and tries to calm him down. And she goes like, you know who I am, right? And he's like, he hesitates. And then she's like, yeah, this is not my son. Like something's taking control of him. So then they start trying to find a connection and see like what's going on, and they find that there's a connection between Will and the creature. Like the creature has been using Will to spy. So Will and Mike. After a while, Will seems to be normal, and he him and Micah start talking about everything, and they started saying like, okay, there's a connection, so like maybe like there is a way for you to do something. So they start going back to that theory about like like helping uh helping them best the monster in the other side. So Dustin went to help in the most unlikely places, and that place, that person that he sought out for help, was none other than Steve. So they form a new alliance, and Steve has his bat. He's ready. At first he's skeptical. He's like, "You have a monster down there?" And he's like, "Yeah." So they start having this. They basically they start being like the humor couple. Like they become like a like brother sibling rivalry, because like sometimes they fight like brothers, but then they also like have this like humor. So they're like the humor relief, the comedic relief in some scenes sometimes. And so they start fighting over like who should go down to the storm cellar first to find out. So finally Steve goes, and he tells he's like, what the hell? So he calls Dustin downstairs, and Dustin goes, and then they find like molted skin again, and he's like, oh no, he molted again. And then they find that D'Artagnan Dart just basically dug his way out through the corner of the storm cellar. Finally, Lucas gets home, and Erica told him that Dustin wouldn't shut the fuck up. She's like, yeah, your friend kept saying code red, or something. And so he tells Max everything. Max is skeptical. She doesn't really believe it. But he's like, all right, if you don't believe it, just come with me. Let's go. Because he goes to her house, and basically she sneaks out. So Steve and Dustin, they start preparing like bait for Dart so that they can lead him to the junkyard that the kids were found in the first season, where like like Lucas and Mike got into it. So they start leading traps there. Like they have like a bucket of bait, and then they start leading it. And at that point, Lucas and Max join Steven and Dustin. So she's like, yeah, right. So Elle has some psychic powers, and there's this other dimension, there's monsters and all that. So she doesn't believe it, but she's there. And Steve is ready. They wait for nightfall, and all of a sudden, like fog starts happening. They're on the lookout. Dustin is jealous. Dustin is just like, whatever. And Steve kind of notices a little bit, so they start talking about, like it's the hair. You gotta like take care of your hair. You gotta like not care and stuff like that. You gotta be confident. So, finally, they start seeing movements, and Steve realizes that the only way they're gonna show themselves is not through dead bait. It needs to be live bait. So Steve decides to go out. He's like, don't come out, whatever happens, just be careful. So Steve goes out, and Dart shows up, but he ignores the bait. And then all of a sudden, more demodogs come out. They appear, and then they just start literally chasing all of them. They start going towards the bus where the kids are hiding and everything. They start, they're Steve is just swinging his bat, fighting them off as best as he can. They go into the bus. So back in Illinois, Murray helps Jonathan and Nancy prepare their recordings exposing the lab, but he also forces them to confront their feelings. He's like, bro, like I'm tired of this shit. You guys have this tension going on, and you guys need to figure it out. Like, you obviously like each other. You're like, oh, high school love. Will they? Will one day? Oh my god! And so then they go a couple times. Like, I think they run into each other, and they go into their rooms, and they look at each other, or they look at each other's doors, and then finally, like, Nancy's about to go out, and Jonathan's right there, and they just start kissing, and then they have sex. So at the in the last scene of the chapter, the doctors are all discussing the risk of burning down all the vines, the tunnels, the gate, everything. That it could kill the kid. It could kill Will. And they're like, just do it. So they send in soldiers down in the tunnels to burn. But then there's a bunch of like demodogs hidden. It's like they're literally all hidden in the tunnels. There's more demodogs than what was attacking, that the ones that were attacking Dustin, Steve, and Max and Lucas. So it's a whole nest. Like, there's piles of bones of animals, people, and stuff like that. And so it turned out that it was a trap, and that the mind flayer was using Dustin, or not Dustin, Will, as basically as a spy to like basically just relay the information. And Mike realizes that. He's like, oh my god. So he starts running towards the guard. He's like, you gotta let me in, you gotta warn them, it's a trap, it's a trap. And like they're holding Mike in, they're just like not letting him go, they're not doing anything with him. And then the demo dogs, basically like the rest of the pack, are unleashed on the labs. Like, they start coming up the tunnels. And then like it ends with literally one of the hands of the demo dog just fucking popping on the ground in front of the window that's at the gate. Chapter 7 is kind of like a separate story. It's all about Elle. Because Elle leaves Terry's void, her version of Terry's void, with clues pointing towards another experiment. And that experiment is number 8, which is Callie. So after she runs away, she goes to Pittsburgh. And eventually she finds Callie and her group. And like, it's a group of 4 people, 2 girls, 2 boys, and they're all like doing something, and she's like, I'm looking for my sister. And she takes out a picture, and they're like, holy shit, that's Callie. Oh, and they start fucking with her, and like the dude pulls out a knife, and he's like about to attack Elle, and like Callie shows up, having the dude vision himself covered in spiders. And so she's like, who are you? And she's like, oh, like, I was looking for you. And she shows her the tattoo, and Callie shows her the tattoo, and they go, sister, sister, and then they just hug each other. So Callie teaches Elle how to focus emotionally to strengthen her powers. So she started talking about like, like, right now what you've been doing works, but you're barely tapping to your full potential because you're not using it out of an emotional place, which is true, because every time that Elle has gotten emotional, that's when her powers are like max output. Like, that's when they work the best. So she starts telling her all of that, but then it starts looking like Callie her motives are dark. So it looks like she has other intentions, which are clear because they're revenge. She wants to grow stronger against, the people who put her in that position, the people who put them in that position. So she starts showing her how to use the powers. Like at first she's like, move that they go to a track, and then she's like, move that trailer up to us, and the trailer's sideways, so it's not like the trailer's like on a track and it's like, you know, it's just a matter of it rolling. It's like sideways. And so she starts going slowly, and like she starts thinking of all the emotional things, like what happened with Terry, her loving, like missing Mike and not being able to like talk to him and seeing him, like being mad at Hopper, all these things. And then like all of a sudden, like it first is slowly, and she's like, ah, and then she starts tapping into that emotional fucking fountain, and yeah, and brings it all into to her, and like all the other guys are like super impressed, and they're like, oh, good shit, good shit. So at that point, Elle uses her tracking powers because Callie shows her a picture, and she's like, this man is, you know, this man is part of like the group of people that torture us, that were part of the experiments and shit. And it turns out that it's the guy that actually was under Brenner's orders shocking Terry with that electroshock therapy. And so they track him down. They get into his apartment, and they're literally about to kill him. But Elle hesitates. He's like, just kill him. And then Elle hesitates, especially because she sees a picture of the guy with like his daughters. And so at that point, she's like, she's having a moral dilemma. It's tearing her apart, because now she's like, if I do this to him, I'm doing the same thing to his kids that he did to me and my mom. And so she starts struggling, but Callie is like, whatever. So like police gets there, they have to their daughters actually call the police, or not their daughters, his daughters call the police, and so like they head out. Callie then decides to offer Elle a choice. She's like, if you're gonna be here, you have to fight. You can't hide. If you're gonna hide, this is not the place for you. You have to be part of us, and in order to do that, we're using one purpose, which is to find all these people that have wronged us, all these people that have hurt us, and we're gonna take them out. We're gonna make the world better by making them not exist anymore. And so Elle has a vision of everything that, or not a vision, she goes into like, as she's like trying to think about everything, she goes into the void, and she sees Mike. She sees Mike struggling with the cops, like, or the security, when he's trying to warn them that it's a trap. She starts realizing that there's trouble at home, and she can fight on another side, because this isn't her fight. Her fight is not Callie's fight. So she leaves, or she decides to, like, you know, she belongs at home with her friends, and that she's needed there. So she decides to leave, as also the police starts raiding their little enclosure, or their little hideout. So Callie helps Elle run away. She's like, okay, so like the cops start trying to kill him, and she like creates like a little distraction, but obviously her distractions last for not that long. So the cops realize what's happening, and then they try to capture them and whatever. So Elle heads back home and takes a bus to Hawkins. Now we go back to Hawkins. So the demo dogs, they invade the lab. Mike realizes Will is the one that's acting unknowingly as a spy. So he once the guards let him go, he's like, we need to put him to sleep. Oh, this is where Will doesn't recognize Joyce. This is where like, because basically at first she's hesitant about putting him to sleep, and then she looks at him and she goes like, Will, tell me who I am. Will, tell me who I am. And he just looks at her and like he doesn't answer, and she's like, shit. All right. So she takes out the syringe and just puts him to sleep, and it blocks the connection. So now the mind flayer can no longer spy. So they're now trapped inside the hospital, and Bob becomes the key to escaping because he's the only one that knows how to reboot the system, because the whole lab goes on lockdown. Everything is locked, and then the power goes out. So there's no way to escape. And so they figure out how to do it with Hopper, Owens, the kids trying to break out and everything. So they use the radio, and then what they do is they manage to get to the security room where they can see all the cameras. So because they're on a backup generator, that using the cameras to see like the hallways and whatever. And so he's guiding Bob through it. He restores the power, and unfortunately, Bob is called Bob the Brain because he's really smart, but he's also really dumb. He leaves the gun behind, and then once he escapes, he also alerts them where he's at, and he reaches the hallway or the entrance of the lab where everybody's waiting for him. And as he's looking at Joyce, all of a sudden, just a demodog just comes out of nowhere and just fucking nabs him and just bites his throat and just kills him. And Bob, R.I.P. Bob dies. For the greater good, Joyce is devastated because she gets to see everything. There's like 4 demodogs feeding on him, so she gets to see everything. It's a very sad moment, especially because Bob, Bob was a sweetheart. Bob was the whole package. He was super cool. He helped them. He tried to like be part of the family. He tried to befriend Jonathan and Will as best as he could. He try to help Will with his problems, and at the end of it all, he just didn't make it. It kind of sucked. But yeah. R.I.P. Bob. R.I.P. Moment of silence for Bob. Okay. So, now outside, Lucas, Dustin, and Steve hear the demodogs moving towards the lab. So once everything started happening, where like the trap was set by the mind flayer, even the ones at the junkyard that Steve and everybody was fighting, they left. They headed towards like the labs. So they started following them. Once they get there, Jonathan and Nancy also get to the lab because they're trying to like figure out what's happening. They're trying to like figure out where Will is at, where everybody's at. And so they all regroup. They all basically get back together. They manage to go into the gate once the power is restored completely. They're able to open the gate, and they go inside. They help Hopper, Nancy, everybody just helps each other. They ride back to the buyer's house. And at this point, a lot of people are grieving Bob. By a lot of people, I mean mostly Joyce. Will's passed out, so he's not grieving Bob. Jonathan's grieving Bob a little bit because he knows that, Bob was not a bad guy. He didn't have anything against Bob except, like being a normal teenager and somebody that's trying to be your friend that's an older generation. You're like, bro, chill out. Like, what are you doing? And that's where like they officially like name, as they're breaking everything down, that's where Dustin comes with the name of Mind Flayer. and or one of the kids comes with the name of Mind Flayer because they're trying to relate it to D&D. It's the best way that they can grasp it. It's the best way that they can physically or verbally, I guess, name it to where it makes sense to them. You know, Hopper gets caught up on it. He's like, whatever, like what? And he's like, they try to explain it's like D&D. He's like, this isn't games. This is like real life. This is whatever. Dustin also tries to name the demo dogs. Like he gives them the name demo dogs, and he's like so proud of it. But like everybody's like, chill. That's not even like the important part. But they decide to hide Will somewhere he wouldn't recognize to break the connection. And so they basically clear out the shit. They just clear out the back shit. They cover it in lights, like big lights, so that basically he's blind. All he can see is the lights. He can't recognize where he's at. And so they start trying to talk to him, and they're trying to communicate with him as best as they can, but he's not. It's not working. Like they know he's under the control, so they start slowly using memories. Like Joyce starts speaking to him about memories, and then Hopper realizes that Will is actually using Morse code. So like he's like tapping like his leg. He's like, oh shit, he's speaking Morse. And so he realizes that Will was saying close the gate. Now the house is covered in demodogs. The demodogs, what is it? The phone rings and Will hears it. Like they're like, oh shit, do you think he heard it? He heard it, and he did. So he recognizes where he's at. And so the Mind Flayer sends demodogs to the buyer's house, and it's covered in dogs. And like they break into it, and they're just all trying to defend themselves as best as they can. And all of a sudden, or no, they don't break into it yet. One of the demodogs bursts through the window, but it's not alive. So then they realize that it's fucking Elle. She fucking opens the door and she shows up. And it's like a badass moment because like all you hear outside is then the demo dog comes through the window and then all of a sudden the door opens and it's her. And like they all like reunite and it's a very sweet and emotional moment. So chapter 9, the gate. So Elle reunites with Mike. Tension rises when like he learns that Hopper has been hiding her. Like he just fucking starts like he's like you fucking asshole, you're that. He's like fighting with him, and then he's like like I'm sorry. So they come up with the plan. Like they have to close the gate, and she's like, I'll do it. I can do it. Just like I've been able to do it. She's still like covering like makeup and stuff. Like she had a new look when she joins Callie in the gang. So they decide to you got 3 groups again. You have Hopper and Elle who decide to go to the lab to close the gate. But they also realize that might hurt Will. So Jonathan, Nancy, Joyce, and Will go to Hopper's cabin where they basically just they're gonna sweat out the Mind Flayer out of Will because obviously like she remember when he was like he likes it cold, so heat he doesn't like heat. So if her theory is that if they use heat, they can get him out of Will. So while that happens, the kids stay behind with. So you got Mike, Lucas, Dustin, Max, and Steve, and Billy shows up looking for Max, and so like they get into it. It's funny as fuck because like he's like, hey, I'm looking for my sister. He's like, I don't know what to tell you, brothers. Your sister isn't here. He's like, oh yeah. Then who's that at the window? And literally all the kids are literally at the window like this. And when Steve looks back, that's when they hide. It's like, bro, you should have hit him the opposite way when Billy was looking. So they get into a fight, and like he's like, oh, I can't remember if it's this confrontation or one of the confrontations that they had at the basketball court. I think it's this one where he's like, you can't even beat me. You can't even beat Byers. And so they start fighting. They go through the house. They're like, he's doing everything he can, but like Billy starts beating the shit out of Steve again. And then all of a sudden, Max sees one of the syringes for drugging Will, and she puts it on Billy. She grabs Billy and she just fucking sticks him with it. So then she's like, you're gonna leave me and my friends alone. Say it. He's like, I'm gonna leave you guys alone. And she has the bat and she grabs it, and he's like, you're not gonna mess with us again. If you do, I'll cut him off. And she goes, and then the thing lands right in between his legs, and they're like, oh shit, I'm not messing with Max anymore. So that was pretty funny. I love that scene because it's kind of like finally lets her have her friendship with the rest of the kids. So Hopper and Elle on the way to the lab, they talk a little bit. He's like, well, I don't know. I don't hate what's going on here. I don't know what happened, but I don't completely hate it. And, they talk about, she talks a little bit about what happened, and he tells her about Sarah, about, how he felt when everything happened, how he had to be there for his daughter who died of cancer. And Elle told him like her fears, her loss, and like family and all that. And it strengthens their bond. I think she says like something like bitching, because that's when, like, in the 70s, that was one of the biggest things. Like 70s and 80s was when like bitching started like being like a word. And so now, yeah, so they get to the lab. They find Owens wounded in the stairwell, and Hopper tells him like, hey, we're going to help you. We're going to close this gate. We're going to take care of the whole problem for you. But when this is done, you don't mess with her. You don't, she's gone. She's dead. She disappeared. You're leaving us alone. You're not messing with us again. Like, can you do that? Like, he's like, you want to survive or not? It's your choice. He's like, yeah. Okay, cool. So he helps him. And so the kids decide that they want to help. They want to help Hopper and Elle have freedom to get there, because they know that it's gonna suck. So Mike decides that he's gonna go underground, and they're gonna set the thing on fire, the nest, Demodoc's nest on fire, to draw them away from the gate. Excuse me. And so they race towards the tunnels to try to, like, get there on time, so that way all the Demodogs are away from Hawkins' lab. So you got three races. So now you got the race of like Elle and Hopper racing to the gate. You got the kids racing to the tunnels to lure them away from Elle and Hopper. And then you got Joyce and Jonathan racing to the cabin and racing against time, because now they have to get the Mind Flayer out of Will's body before they close the gate, because the conclusion that they came to is that since everything is connected, once they close the gate, if the Mind Flayer is still inside of Will's body, it'll kill him. It'll kill anything that's connected to the Mind Flayer. So the Demodogs, everything will die. So they have to like get him out. And so like he starts acting out, and Nancy just grabs like a fire poker from the fireplace, and she just puts it in and like on his arm, and like that's when like he just like completely lets it out. So now, as that connection is broken, Elle and Hopper reach the gate at that same time. And using everything that she learned, she starts thinking about everything that she learned with Callie, her moment with Callie, like finding her lost sister, being reunited with everybody, like all of that. She uses that, and she just basically starts like completely closing the gate. She's like, "Rah!" There's like demodogs that got there, and they start like, climbing up, and like they try to attack them as like while she's doing that. And as she finally like she's able to do it, she just closes the gate. Everything dies. Demodogs die. Like there's like the kids are running away from the demodogs. They're literally about to get caught, and whoop, the gate closes. So, after everything calms down, after all the events take place, and it's been a little bit of time, Hopper meets with Dr. Owens, who survived, and he's okay, and he gives him the legal documentation that he made happen, where now Elle is officially Jane Hopper. The truth about Barb is revealed to her parents, and it reaches her parents about like her being a victim of the labs, of like whatever leakage the labs had, and that it was a cover up. And then it ends with the kids going to the snowball dance, which is pretty cool because Elle gets to dance with Mike. Like Hopper lets her go. She gets all pretty, like a little dress, and she goes and dances with Mike. Lucas and Max dance, and then Dustin shows up with like, Steve drops him up. He's like, "Hey man, it's all about confidence." So like they have that little sibling thing where he like drops him off. He's like, "You got this, man. Just do it." And Dustin does this little thing he's doing where he goes like, he's like, "Don't do that." So he goes in and he tries to ask the hottest girl out, and she's like, "No." And so Nancy's there as a chaperone, and she notices Dustin. She notices what happened and that he's sad. And so she goes and asks him to dance, and they dance and everything. They have a little moment. And he's like, "Oh, thank you so much." Like she's like an older girl. She's like a high school girl. They're still in middle school. So like everybody's looking like, "Oh my God, Dustin is dancing with Nancy Wheeler." And they have a heart to heart, and she finally like helps him, and he feels better. Joyce and Hopper, they share a quick moment outside where they talk about Bob and his sacrifice, and everything that is gonna take place, and everybody just like everybody's just happy. Everybody finally like feels like there's home and quiet. But then everything shifts upside down. And you see in the upside down the Mind Flayer on top of the gymnasium where they're having the snowball dance, and he's just like closing in. And that's how we end season 3 or season 2. And that's Now season 3 is good. Like season 3 forward, it's where it starts getting like cinematic. Like there's some badass fights. Like everything just becomes like crazy. Season 4 was good, and then season 5 was really good, but it also kind of sucked because there were so many things that they could have done better. But we'll get into all of that. I mean it's awesome. So don't forget now season 3 is going to be the full season episode, or an episode of the full season. And so from now on, it's going to be that. It may take me a little bit longer. Maybe like there'll be like 2 weeks in between episodes, just because of the fact that like season 2, I think they're 1-hour episodes. Season 3, season 4 and 5, they start being like 2-hour episodes. So that may take me a little bit longer to watch them and like break them down and stuff like that. But they're cool. It's a pretty awesome show. I'm really excited about what's going to happen after Stranger Things when Inferno and I start breaking down Smallville. All my dreams are on the ground, falling around. Somebody save me. But yeah, and don't forget that, guys. Go find me on Twitch. You play 7. Currently, we're doing Resident Evil Biohazard, which is Resident Evil 7. A lot of jump scares, a lot of screams. If you want to see me shit my pants, that's where to go. Yeah, this is the new and official Papi's Place with G Play 7 and guests every now and then. So, hope you guys love this. Like, follow, subscribe, do all of that. Tell me what your favorite moments in the scenes were, your favorite characters, all of that. Love you guys. G out.